Welcome to the Business for London video on search engine optimization. Search engine optimization is often referred to as SEO for short, and I'll be using both terms interchangeably throughout this video. So let's start by talking about online sales. In the UK alone, there are 62 million internet users. That's 92% of our adult population. Worldwide, over 4 billion users, which is 57% of our population. In 2023, the UK's online retailers generated sales of £177.72 billion. And of course, it was predicted that it would grow exponentially over the next few years. The fact is, in this day and age, no business can neglect the potential of having an online presence. Other facts include that 93% of all searches in the UK begin with search engines. In actual fact, 92% of all internet users choose Google in the UK. And of course, there are 165 billion searches per month, which is 5.4 billion per day. Nobody searches for products or services in phone directories anymore. Directories like the Yellow Pages are a thing of the past now. The other fact is that only 7% of internet users look past the first 3 pages. In fact, let's face it, most people don't get that far. And the other thing is that 70 to 80% of users ignore the paid ads, the ones that say sponsored. So let's talk a little bit about how you rank in searches. Pay-per-click is internet advertising. It's used on search engines and advertising networks, as well as content sites such as blogs. Essentially, advertisers pay their host only when their ad is clicked. So you can pay for the ad, it'll come up as a sponsored ad, and if somebody clicks through to look at your advert, at that point, the person advertising will pay for the click, which is why it's called pay per click. However, 70 to 80% of users ignore Google ads, the ones that say sponsored, because often they're not giving you the answer to the question that you typed in. SEO is the process of improving the volume and quality of the traffic to your website using a search engine. And this is using the process of organic or natural search results. In other words, not paying to come up in ads, but working on organic SEO to help you come up in searches. But the fact is that very few businesses are using SEO. In fact, only 7% of websites are using any type of SEO. Now this slide talks about Google result impressions. Impressions are recorded each time a user sees your ad or your website come up in a search. And even with Google Ads, an impression is only counted when your advert is shown in a search. And it's the same with organic SEO. Impressions are counted when a link to your website appears in a search result. And as you can see here, the first page of search results receives over 90% of the traffic, and less than 6% of users click on results from the second page of Google. Now, SEO requires a number of strategies, one of which are keywords. Keywords are the words that searchers are typing in to search engines. A keyword can be a single word or a string of words, like a question. And it's important that you choose the right kinds of keywords, primary keywords versus secondary or long tail keywords. One of the most common mistakes people make when they're choosing their keywords is not doing enough research. They also often ignore the long tail keywords, the types of keywords that are more like questions. People often also chase keywords with a high volume of searches. High volumes of searches are hard to compete for because everybody's trying to come up for those searches. In other words, lots of people searching, and so all businesses are vying for a place in the Google search results. And of course, one of the other common mistakes is to not use keywords that accurately reflect what your content is about. Keywords are used to implement on-site SEO. Key things are keeping your keywords high on the page, using what's called the title tags. It's one of the most important things to include, and title tags should not be more than 59 characters. And every single page should have a different title tag. They shouldn't be replicated throughout your site. The HTML code, the hypertext markup language code that you may see in the back end of a website, is shown on the screen now. The other thing is to have clean URLs, clean addresses for your pages. Make sure your URLs are short and to the point. Again, when you're choosing a domain for your business, it's important to think about what your website address might look like. So right at the start of creating your business name, think about what the domain name, the website address, will be. And can you have a name, or a domain name at least, that has a keyword for what you do in terms of your product or service? An example of this might be something like www.locksmithgreenwich.co.uk or www.londonguitars.co.uk. Let's talk about 15 simple techniques that you can implement in terms of SEO. The first one is your meta description. These are special HTML tags that allow the creator or editor of a web page to give information about the document that's not displayed in the browser rendered page. The metadata is located in the head section of the HTML code. And if you look at the code of a web page, the first page will have what's called a head section. And you'll see this by viewing the source code of your website. Why would you bother with meta keywords? Well, H tags, heading tags, as their name suggests, are used to differentiate the heading of a page from the rest of the content. These tags are also known to webmasters as HTML header tags, head tags, heading tags, and SEO header tags. The most important heading tag is the H1, which is the style heading 1, and least important is the H6 tag. And in terms of HTML, this would be written as H1 in brackets, your keyword, in other words, the heading for your keyword, and then close the HTML with the H1 tag, as you can see here. Let me just show you what I'm talking about by looking at the source code of a website. If I right click and show page source here, I'm using a Mac for this. Here you'll see what I was talking about. So this is the HTML for this website. Here's the head section that I talked about. And here's some of your metadata. It says description. This is the content. Building better businesses, business for London. Here we go. All of this is your metadata. And then you'll see references to heading styles as you look through the source code. For example, here there's a heading 2 style, for example, around this particular heading here. And this is where it closes the H2 off here. And in terms of keywords, the content of your page must contain the right keywords. Search engines prefer keywords right from the top. Keyword rich, that's where your website content is rich in keywords. It should contain the right keywords, plenty of them, and you should be aiming for around 3% of keywords within your text. So for every 100 words, about 3 words should be your keywords. Linking within your website to other pages, for example, so it's easier to navigate around your website. It also helps feed the search engine bots. And of course, images should be named. Rather than uploading images to your website called 1.jpg or some other characters.jpg, rename your images outside of your website. Also make sure that they're small in size, ideally under a megabyte. Somewhere around a few hundred kilobytes would be best. And when you upload your images, add alt text or alternative text to your images in the back end of your website. These are short descriptions that are added to images to provide context for users and search engines. They are crucial, particularly for users with visual impairments. Their screen readers will be able to describe to them what the images are without necessarily displaying the images. So if I show you the media library, so that I can show you where some of the SEO information goes. This is in the back end of a website that's in development. It's using WordPress, which is a website building system. I'll just show you some alt text. If I click on one of these images over here, I would add my SEO. So this is the name of the image. If you wanted to rename that, you could call it something like BWM waste management or something like that. Alternative text is where I put the information that would be shown to screen readers, as I just mentioned. So I might put something like that. Green waste bin for recycling, or just recycling green waste bin or something like that. Caption I can add here. Caption will be displayed with it as well. I can put a description of what it's about, and all of this information that I add here will improve the SEO of this image. And if I want to put something about the actual company, and I could change all of these. You get the idea. Okay, now the other type of SEO that goes into the back end of a website It's very similar to what I've just shown you, but it goes on the pages. One of the easiest ways to do this in WordPress is to add what's known as a plugin. Plugins are little add-ons, bits of software that help you do specific things in WordPress that would be more difficult without them. I'm going to go to plugins here and I'm going to add a plugin. And I'm going to search for something called Yoast, which is a plugin for SEO. I'm going to install it now. There is a paid version of Yoast, but most people can usually get by with the free version. Okay, so I've installed that plugin. If I go to installed plugins now, all I have to do is activate that plugin, and then it will add SEO elements at the bottom of each page that I can customize. So let's go to all pages. Let's go to our home page. Okay, so we go to edit the page. We just use the normal edit function here. And if you come down to the bottom of the page, we can't see the page content because it's been built with another website building tool called Divi. But if we come down here, these are the SEO elements provided by Yoast, where we can add the SEO elements to optimize the website to come up better in searches. So here it's telling us we haven't got any at the moment. Focus key phrase. Now the key phrase will come from your keyword research. So I'm going to put Waste Management London. This is showing you here what it will look like when it comes up in searches. So this is the mobile view on tablets and mobile phones. And this is what it will look like in a desktop result. I can add a title, the SEO title here. You can see what's happening there. Adding that in front of here. Okay, so I don't want to add this actually because it already says that. So I might put something like and then the slug is what comes up after the website URL. In this case it will be britishwastemanagement.com. This is the name of the page that comes after the website domain. So home is exactly what it is. It's the home page of this website. And then I need to put in the meta description. The meta description again is going to be using keywords to help this website come up in searches. It can generate a meta description for you. However, you would need to upgrade to a paid version of Yoast to be able to use that. So I'm going to write my own meta description. You can see now that this line here has become green, saying that I've done a good job. SEO analysis, let's have a look what it says here. Add synonyms. Synonyms are very similar words to waste management and related keywords as well. If you want to add these, you do need to go premium, unfortunately. Internal links are internal links from the page. There's a few other things here. I'm not going to go into all of this now. Outbound links are links out of the website. And it's saying that I've done a good job on some of these things. And of course, all of these things, ideally, we want to be seeing as green. All right, so that's Yoast. Yoast is a very good tool, very good plugin for WordPress websites to help you add all of the SEO information that's required to optimize your website. When you've done everything here, don't forget always to click Save. Good, okay, so let's move on to some other important aspects of SEO. Backlinks. Backlinks are hugely important for websites. They are what we call off-page SEO, and they are links to your website from other authoritative sites, authoritative meaning good quality sites. So for example, if you had a link to your website from a council website as a preferred supplier, for example, that would be like gold dust. Backlinks are very important for SEO. It's a bit like having extra votes for your website. And the more backlinks you have, the more likely it is for search engines like Google to show your website in searches, because they will view your site as being more authoritative because of all the backlinks that you have. Some of the ways that you can keep your content fresh and add more backlinks is to offer to guest post on other people's websites. So you might write a blog post, for example, for an industry website or an industry magazine, and they might provide a backlink, a link from their website via your article to your website. Just make sure it's what we call a do follow link when you offer to do a guest post. Blogging sites, very similar to guest posting. Forums, authority sites, directories, business directories, for example. Even having a Google business profile gives you a useful backlink to your website. Social media sites, you might also even create mini websites. Google My Business I've just mentioned, PDF shares, image shares, and even profile links. If you're not sure what some of these things are, rather than me going through all of these here, make sure you have a good look at off-page SEO after watching this video. And of course, content is king. One of the most important factors is to create quality content that ranks in searches. As we said earlier, the content must contain the right number of words, keywords, and it must be written well. It must contain media, in other words, images or videos. And it should beat your competition. In other words, it must be of much better quality than the content that your competitors are creating. And one of the things you should do is go and have a look at your competitors, see what things they're doing, see what types of content they're writing, and see what you can learn from best practice, and also see what you could be doing better. And of course, all content now online must be mobile phone friendly. In other words, it must be optimized for mobile use. A little acronym here, EAT. Expertise is all about whether the author of the website, page or post has the expertise in the topic that they're writing about. It might be that they're an enthusiast, a hobbyist, or even a professional. Authority. Does the site or author have authority in the subject? Are they a professional doctor, an accountant, or a lawyer, for example? Trustworthiness is really important as well. The website, the content, and the author of the pages must generate trust in the people that are searching. When they arrive on your website, they must get the sense that they are genuinely in the right place and that you are giving them the information rather than just trying to sell to them by using ads or attempting to steal their money. So in other words, is the website trustworthy? Does it have an SSL certificate? In other words, does it resolve to an HTTPS address rather than an HTTP address? An SSL certificate stands for Secure Socket Layer. Is there contact information? Is there an address, phone number, email? Is there a company's house number if they're a limited company? If they charge VAT, is there a VAT number visible on their website? The other thing nowadays is that customer reviews are paramount. This is called social proof, and people want to know that other people think that you're good at what you do. So it's vital to have good reviews from places like Trustpilot or Google My Business and even Yelp to enhance your credibility with Google and other search engines. SERP stands for Search Engine Results Page, which is the page that comes up after someone types in a search. In other words, the results. Customer reviews also fit very well with the EAT factors, as it shows Google and other search engines that real people are reviewing your business. This demonstrates your trustworthiness, and of course, it could pick up any positive snippets in search results related to EAT. Expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. Of course, satisfied customers will lead to more customers. Having an easy to navigate website is really important these days. People don't want to spend time trying to find what they're looking for, and they give up very quickly if they can't find what it is they're searching for. Another factor for SEO, of course, is your load time. Does your website load quickly? Does it have unnecessary content like images that are too large? Is it mobile friendly? And as we mentioned earlier, does your site have an SSL certificate? Before we move on, I just want to show you how you can research some of your keywords. There are many ways to search for keywords. Of course, you could just start with Google itself. If you type in your search in Google, you will get a list of suggested terms. Those are search terms that people are using. This is a site called answerthepublic.com. You could have 3 free daily searches. I've got a paid version, but that's okay. We'll use the free version for now. And you just type in what it is you do. So if I was a locksmith, I might type in locksmith. I want to find keywords that are in English and also what people are typing into searches in the United Kingdom. I can search for the keywords that are being searched for on Google or Instagram, even Amazon, if I was selling products, for example, YouTube, TikTok, and Bing. I'm just going to start with Google and I'm going to search. It tells me there are 111 questions, and these are what we call the kind of long tail keywords when they are questions. Lots and lots of questions here. And it also tells me around the edge here the average number of searches that are taking place on a monthly basis. It also shows me here in dollars how much people are paying per click, and I would just convert that figure to British pounds. And as you can see, some have higher searches, and my advice to you is to use keywords from here with high and low searches. The ones that don't have any numbers here means that there are less than 10 searches taking place, but For organic searches, it's easier to come up in searches where there are low numbers of searches. The ones with higher numbers of searches, as you can see, people are willing to pay, and people are paying for Google Ads to come up in those searches. And in this case, let's have a look, it's $13.52 per click. So it will be very hard to come up in a search for that particular search term because other people are paying for it and the competition is high. All right, so once you've got your keywords, there's some more information down here. Keywords with the word can, without, with, and so on. And comparisons. And then we've got the alphabetical terms. In other words, the term locksmith with searches beginning with A, B, C, D, and so on. All right, so this is a good place to start your keyword research. Checking your progress is the last thing I want to cover. These websites listed here can give you an insight on AdWord popularity, for example, or link popularity. It will tell you whether you're coming up in searches, and it will help you verify some of your keywords. You could run a test for every single keyword or phrase that you think is important. And they also give you some insight into your competition and what they're doing. So check your rankings on SpyFu, for example. Okay, and I've typed in business for London here. If I search, it tells me what's happening, how much organic traffic I've got. If I was paying for Google Ads, it would tell me, give me the blue line as well. The blue line is flat because we're not paying. And it gives you where you've improved with your keywords, where you're ranking for new keywords, and where you've lost your position in searches. If I click on this one, for example, it tells me what those individual keywords are, what the volume of searches are, where we rank in searches, so we come up number 5 for that one, and how many clicks, and various other information here. If I go back to the first page, you'll see that we can do SEO research. For example, have a look at our competitors, tells us who they are, and it shows us how well we're doing against them. Number of keywords, monthly clicks. This particular one here is doing better. You can find out a bit more about them. You would also probably go to their website just to make sure that they are a competitor for what you're providing. All right, so there's some really good information here. Spend some time on some of these websites, finding out a little bit more about how well you're doing with your keywords, how well you're doing against your competitors, and how well you're coming up in searches. And that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. I wish you all the very best of luck with it.